welcome back to our Cosmic Eclipse Trials matches here. Today we have Nick playing Malamar with the pink sleeves, and Evan is playing Silvally-Volcarona with those lovely... Sorry, I was corrected. They're lilac sleeves. Playing the lovely Charizard sleeves there. Fun fact here is, again, I built the deck Evan's playing, and Evan built the deck that Nick's playing, so, you know, we'll just play this live. And who's going first in this one?
I am.
Alright, and Nick is going first in this game. So I think we're going to try to see, like, Evan just kind of swarm with some Volcaronas and get sniping knockouts to avoid that new Blacephalon with his 12 damage counter drop. Evan should be able to kind of consistently drop the back burn, or at least Brave Buddies. Nick here, I think, just kind of wants to not be Malamar. Yep.
This was the moment.
And if Evan flipped over his prizes, that'd be pretty, or Pokemon, that'd be rad too.
Oh, you want me to flip over my
Now, you know, like I said, I was the one who made the Silvally-Volcarona deck here. It's nothing special. The one thing I just want to point out is, like, you'll see one weird, or not even weird, just different art on the type nulls. No reason other than that's the first thing I grabbed. They're all 110 hit points. Oh, yeah, we gotta fix that then. Oof. Yeah. Evan's pointing out this one has 100, so...
I'm gonna go Wilder, Quick Blow, Heads, Knockout.
I mean, and that is why there is that one in there, is situationally, he one-shots this Inkay on his first turn, and Nick just goes, what?
I'm in there.
So Nick's, you know, getting that Malmar start that you kind of want to see. He's got two Inkays on the field, which, you know, is never a terrible thing. He's got the skateboard on one of them, so if he can give himself, like, a Jirachi, maybe, to get out of being Inkay in the active, that definitely wouldn't be a bad thing. Speaking of...
I do want to point out that I am not a Malmar pro, and that this list is okay.
Evan wanted to point out that this may not be an optimal Malamar list, but he threw it together in terms of, let's try these Cosmic Eclipse cards. So Nick also still gets that Viridian Forest going turn 1, gets an energy in the discard pile, and he's still got that Jirachi to make a Wish Foundation with. And we'll see where he goes from here. He grabs the Psychic Energy. It's a bold strategy.
Are we there yet?
I don't think Malamar loses or gains anything heavy, does it?
The baby Blacephalon being able to drop 12 counters when you're on 3 prizes is kind of rad, because it's like an extra cross division, but it takes longer to be able to get to, so you know, 6 of one half dozen of another. Nick's looking at that hand there off of the Stellar Wish, trying to decide what he needs to take, but yeah, that treasure might do him some good there. Gain a 3rd Inkay down if he wanted to. Or he can save it, get a Malamar, get a Giratina. He's got options.
I got the 3rd Inkay.
Yep, so Nick's got that classic Malmar field of 3 Inkay and a Jirachi. He's going to see if he stays asleep here. And he wakes up. That's super important. So Evan goes ahead and tosses that Great Catcher card he's probably not planning to use much of in this matchup. Only thing he'd really use on is if Nick plays Espeon Deoxys, and I don't think he does.
Yes, we.
Nope, he does. He plays 1. So one thing Nick might prioritize in this matchup is trying to get that Mimikyu with Shadow Box out and locking off the Silvallis and the Volcaronas. One thing about this Silvally list, it does play a Ditto Ninetales line for that particular situation where he can grab the Mimikyu to clear it off the field if he needs to. Oh, actually went to a 1-1 line with the Ditto, so he's got the Vulpix and the Ditto if he needs to get there. I haven't played this deck as much as some of my other decks. So, this is kind of where Evan wants to be. He's got two Larvestas down. He's got a type Null in the active. His hand's not too bad, really. I think the only thing Evan may have wanted to do is get down a second type Null if Nick's able to get off that Giratina attack this turn and get type Null off the field. But that may also be kind of a non-issue here. Because not only does Nick need to get into the Giratina, he's got to get the Malamars into play, so... So Nick does have the Mysterious Treasure. He's able to dig through, get out at least one of those Pokemon that he was kind of looking for at this point. Looks like he gets Tina. And presumably Tina's probably not staying around for long since Nick hasn't shuffled his deck. Tina goes out for the Viridian. Gets Nick another Psychic Energy. You know, these Psychic type Pokemon do like their Psychic Energies. They're magically delicious. Nick's checking that Psychic Energy count in his discard pile, and it's looking pretty good with 3 energy in the discard.
This. I'll use the second effect. Discard.
Now, Nick, did you get a supporter back as well?
Yeah, you got some.
Okay. So there's one Malamar on the field. That's a start, but you know, Nick gets the Distortion Door. He gets the damage on the Larvesta. He's got a couple energy on Giratina now, so Giratina will be ready to come be itself here in another turn or so.
One of those cards is not
Nick stays asleep. And got a pretty good top deck there in Volcarona. He had the other one in his hand, and he's got Silvally for some Brave Buddy fun coming up. Pitches the Ultra Ball, grabs Fire.
Cherish Ball.
Yeah, Cherish Ball. Those of you who don't know that are new to our channel, I'm a school teacher, and it's long weeks right now. I'm ready for Christmas break. Yes, I realize that's a month and a half away.
We're getting
We will get there. And yes, for those of you who may ask in the comment, most of my students do know that I play Pokemon, and they find it fascinating, and they show me all their cards and everything, so it's kind of fun. So Evan's able to drop the welder, and he gets a Silvally, a type Noel, onto the bench, and then he gets that Brave Buddy off to get him a couple extra cards. Looks like, what's this even do? Or, yeah, disc reload, not the Brave Buddy. I know what these cards are, don't mind me. You see that day change, just getting the Volcarona back in the deck for later on. It's probably hoping to try to get a couple fire energy to take advantage of that flaming shot ability over on the Volcaronas. I always liked Volcarona. It kind of sounds like it's a sexy beer. So things all kind of come up Millhouse for Evan here. He finds the heat factory. He gets a couple fire energy. Think about those flaming shots. Shots. He gets 40 damage on an Inkay, kind of threatening if Nick can't evolve that one. That one's done for. And then Brave Buddy gets Jirachi off the field, kind of forcing Nick to play reactively. We know he can attack with Malamar this turn, but at the same time, does it really do much for him with where he's at? So another Jirachi comes down, and he gets his Ollie kick flip action here. See the psychic recharge being thought about. Nick does have energy in hand, so maybe he wants to hold the psychic recharge for a later play. And good old Cynthia's shuffle draw 6 might bring him some good news. Nick gets rid of the Blounds and goes for another Malamar. Seems like a good idea here. I think one thing we could do with this Silvally-Volcarona deck is change the 4th type Null over to a Turtonator. That way you have one more non-GX attacker against Keldeos. I mean, Victini will probably get you one, and then if you can get the Turtonator on board with, you know, either Flaming Shot or just a 4th energy at some point, you'll get there too. Nick thinks about it. He goes back into the Jirachi. Nick's kind of got to think about what he wants to do here. Decides to go with the communication. Probably not a bad plan. Uses the communication to play treasure. He's kind of eyeing up Mimikyu, and he decides to go with it. It'll kind of be helpful in slowing down some of those Volcaronas. We kind of talked about the fact that Evan may have had to worry about getting that Ditto or Vulpix down to kind of worry about that Mimikyu, and now he's kind of stuck dealing with it without. I've heard a lot of people kind of talk about, does this version of Malmar really have the space to afford that Mimikyu? You know, it's easy enough card to tech in, but like putting it in the deck itself is, you know, kind of a whole nother issue also. So Nick checking it out, making sure White Knight doesn't knock out Giratina. So we go on to Evan, and Evan's, you know, damage output is a little bit neutered here with those Volcaronas having damage counters on them and Shadowbox preventing that. Silvally's without his disc reload right now. So Evan's kind of just in a weird place.
Really awkward spot.
Yeah. It only does him but about so much good to be able to deal with that Giratina.
You have one card.
Yes.
I think what might be Evan's best course of action here is if he can play a supporter to get that Brave Buddies up to 120, and then conserve Volcarona for next turn to avoid the spell tag damage. I think he almost could have held on to the Volcarona in hand if he wasn't too sure there. But Nick doesn't really have a way to put a damage counter on it right now, so, you know, he'll be fine in that regard. He's never punished, it's okay. We see that Welder turning Brave Buddies onto full power here. I think one reason I might have wanted to see Evan hold on to that Volcarona is the deck only plays 7 supporters. I mean, we have a Pal Pad in there, but if he kept the Larvesta, he could have thrown down red and blue if he doesn't have Welder next turn. That way he can guarantee Brave Buddy's damage output. But maybe there's reasoning behind it that we will never know.
It's like a fishing rod is my one card, which I didn't really need.
Never
I just popped up this Cynthia.
Never fun. This is why I can't win you. Never.
So we're probably about to see Silvally go down here to Giratina's Distortion Door, which could open up
Shadow.
Evan, or yeah, Shadow Impact, which could open up Evan to being able to drop down either that Vulpix or Ditto to try to go into Ninetales that we've been talking about. But at the same time, when that Giratina goes down, it can Distortion Door and take his last Volcarona offline for another turn. So that may be, one of those risks that you kind of have to calculate when you go into this situation. And I think the nice thing going for Evan is he does have like a Volcarona with 3 energy on it that he can come in, he can swing with. But if he's going to go that Ditto route, he'll have to kind of decide if it's worth it as it comes to activating Nick's Baby Blacephalon turn, and then Ditto and Vulpix would both go down to Blacephalon's attack.
Oh,
Now we have this Volcarona who still can't use its ability now, who, got great catchered up, which, good pull from Nick off of a top deck of Cynthia. He said the only card in his hand at the end of the turn was Malolana. And, that can't feel but so good. But then you get that Cynthia. Yeah, Lana's fishing rod. Can't feel but so good until you're like, oh look, Cynthia. Oh look, great catcher, great. Now I turn off my opponent's only great course of action that they have right now. So you see, Evan played that Palpaging a couple welders back. He has played as 4 welders, so he's, down to welders and red and blues.
Man, imagine trying to put strategy into this game. And then your opponent just rips Cynthia. And then rips them back.
Sorry, we were talking about Evan being at 3 prizes earlier for the Firework Bomb, but it's Nick who has to be at 3 prizes for Firework Bomb to go off, so if we do see this knockout, Evan can take that route of trying to get a Vulpix or Ditto down to... I think if he can get this Mimikyu off the field, he opens up like a lot of more options as to what he can do. You got 3 currently.
Yes.
You gotta score.
So Evan just passes, not really sure what his game plan is at this point. He couldn't welder attach to get the attack off there. Nick's Erica for 6 probably feels pretty good.
Never done that before.
hashtag never punished.
Shadow
Why could
Impact
they
for
attack?
knockout.
Well, I mean, he didn't have an attacker going. He weldered it. I mean, he sent the welders in there. He's kind of wants to keep that type null probably live to, for red and blue to have a target. So while he has it, you know, it's just not always necessary to get there. It also would have triggered the spell tag damage, which he was probably not wanting to have happen. So now we'll see kind of where he goes from here. Now that he's got this open bench space, he's got the Ditto down. So now he really can't attack because he's got to avoid that spell tag damage. You know, lucky for him, Nick doesn't have any bench space, so he can't bring down a cross division. He's not playing custom catchers, which is, you know, pretty par for the course for Malamar. But that Shadow Impact is getting some damage spread around, and that's, you know, helpful when Evan can get back into starting to target things down with those Volcaronas, being able to keep, you know, take a couple cheeky prize cards off of little attacks like that. See another heat factory here. Evan leaves that the Dene in the active, just kind of trying to keep his attackers online, his draw engines online. It's kind of a weird place to be just in general. Unless something can go awry, he should be able to go into that Ninetales next turn, get a Mimikyu offline. Then he can go and take, you know, Volcarona knockout on the Giratina, and that'll drop him down to 3 prizes, and then he can easily get a knockout with that fully powered Volcarona back there, bringing him down to 2. Evan in a Vanguard fashion declared that was like a final turn there on Nick's mistake, dropping down the damage. Alright, so Nick decides to...
do I take prize or promote first?
You're going to going through order of turns here. So knockouts are the last thing checked. Turn has to end with active. So you're going to take a prize, then promote. And if I'm wrong on that, it's been a little while since that's come up, and we're not going to slow down the video to go and look it up.
It doesn't affect my option.
Yeah. He gets a 3rd Larvesta down. He's eyeing up that Pokemon communication, sending back a type null. Gets himself that Ninetales we've mentioned since the beginning of the match that he, you know, decided was relevant now. See a Fire Crystal. You can ready to fire off 9 Temptations. Yep, here comes Mimikyu. welder, gain some energy on that type null. And he does give an air slash for the knockout, turning his abilities back online, bringing him down to 3 prize cards. I mean, as we explain to people at League all the time, as they're newer players at times, that, you know, prize cards doesn't necessarily mean anything. I mean, Nick can go down to 1 prize card on this turn if he really so desires, but that doesn't mean he can close out the game. I mean, Evan's developed a pretty solid board state with his 2 Volcaronas, right? Just flaming shot stuff. That 40 damage is going to have to come up somewhere. You know, Nick goes ahead and fires that Malus fishing rod back in with the look like the Mimikyu and spell tag. So I guess we're going to see if Nick can get to that Mimikyu again this turn, which would be huge for him. Radiant comes down, replacing the Heat Factory. Nick probably trying to just thin some cards out of his hand more than anything, really, at this point. Try to find his way back into that Shadow Box Mimikyu. Like, this is what I'm talking about. Nick's sitting here looking at a card in his hand, going, can I play it, can I not? And that is the downside to that Mimikyu needing a bench space. Alright.
Why you always lying? You're gonna rip it. Hit or miss. I guess they never miss.
Nick does get the Mimikyu back, and we'll see if Evan, you know, is able to spend another turn taking down that Mimikyu and dodging some more bullets.
Shadow Impact for knockout.
So Mimikyu is the target of that Shadow Impact's damage there. You know, pretty inconsequential, but Evan again is going to see if he can finally get his Volcaronas back online. You know, kind of the backbone of the deck, being able to get this extra damage off of cards, and he hasn't been able to keep it anywhere for any real amount of time. I mean, with the amount of time they've been playing, you know, and timed as a best of 3 match, Evan's kind of at the point where he knows he's either got to close out this game or take a loss to the Mimikyu and play a lot faster of a game 2. So we're going to see, you know, he pops off the Viridian, gain fire energy into hand. Now Nick is playing a second Lana's fishing rod, so that, I don't remember if he's played both of them or just the one, but I'm pretty sure it's just the one right now. He's going through looking, making sure. So he could get himself back that Mimikyu again and go digging again, and, you know, as Evan says, he'll never miss getting it, so. I think the writing on the wall is that if Evan can get rid of the Mimikyu this turn, he should be able to close out the game next turn. He'll go down to 2 off of knocking out the Mimikyu. He'll get 2 energy back in hand, use one of them to take down the Giratina, and then he just has to kind of get himself into a welder and a couple more fire energy and take a knockout on the last surviving target. On the other hand, if he's not able to take care of that Mimikyu this turn, he is probably just going to have to take the L on that. So that healthy Larvesta became a big, beautiful Volcarona. And still kind of thinking it through how to get there. Yeah. We'll toss a Jinx in here to move the damage off the Volcaronas. Pickles are delicious.
Sweet gherkin?
Yeah, because half the game right now is going to come down to is if Evan does take the knockout on that Mimikyu, he has to have, if Nick has his Espeon Deoxys live, he can just cross division the Ninetales for game. So Evan's going for, some beautiful stall tactics here. Grabbing Malamar up. So now Evan's kind of in a spot where he can Flaming Shot the Mimikyu for knockout if that other Volcarona doesn't get a damage on it. He then Flaming Shot the Giratina for a knockout, and then he can Backblast the Giratina for his third prize. So Nick doesn't play any switching cards beside a skateboard and 2 switches. And he doesn't really have a way to get, the escape board on at this point, so he has to find a switch if he wants to get out of the active position. And he finds it. Alright, so now we'll see if Evan can close out the game here. Drops the Dedenne, grabs some cards. He finds the Fire Crystal, gain 3 energy back, and now he's going to be able to knock out the Mimikyu. Gets the Giratina, and then whatever Nick puts up is going to die to Volcarona's attack.
Backfire for game. Alright.
And that ends an exciting game 1 here.
After 45. No.
So yeah, unbeknownst to the players, they've played for 49 minutes, leaving 11 minutes on the clock. So if we're
played 49 minutes.
39.
Oh, 30.
yeah 39. Sorry, they played for 39 minutes. Math is hard after teaching it all week. If they were playing in an actual best of 3 event, Nick would have to move pretty quick to be able to keep up any real pace and have a chance at eking out the game 2 to go for a tie. Whereas Evan, he's kind of got the tools to make quick work of the game. If Nick can't get enough cards on the field, if Evan, I know, right? But they're silky soft.
I don't think it's good.
Nah, I was trying to find my katanas that I couldn't, so I was like, what else is fire? Charizard. Charizard's fire.
This is the coolest.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think about that game?
I enjoyed it. I did not anticipate that you would be able to get around spell tag by knocking out like your
I
Not
big
playing
brain
one
that.
versus
Galaxy
I
brain.
don't,
I think I galaxy brained that. I was thinking I'm like, and then on that one turn I'm like, you already lost.
Yep.
I'm like, oh my womo, Shinderu. I'm like, so his win con is like Espioxus,
Yep.
but I can make sure that never happens.
Yep. Nick, had you played both switches at that point?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that was your last one, and I was trying to like bait it out.
Would that deck fit a Reshizard for endgame?
I mean, theoretically, you could go down to the 3rd type null and put in a Reshizard if you wanted to. You could go down to 3 Hertz, put in a Reshizard.
I'll go first.
I think if I went down to 3 Hertz, it'd probably be for a 4th Fire Crystal. So Nick is going first in game 2 of the...
We're starting.
Alright, well, here's kind of that situation we talked about where Nick is going to have to capitalize the early game and hope that hope that Evan can't capitalize on it as easily as he can. We see that lovely Jirachi start, goes in with the communication to grab himself probably an Inkay.
Shenanigans.
Indeed. Evan's got his eyes on the prize, which is that sweet tripped IHOP at the end of all this.
Yo, yeah. So you ripped the skateboard off this time. Can a man get any lucky? I would like to say, like, even after all those sick rips, that I still pulled it through.
Right?
And that's why I can win a tournament.
I mean, yeah, Nick screamed Heart of the Cards more than enough times in that game, and apparently the Heart of the Cards is not always enough.
To beat Galaxy. If you have a big enough Galaxy.
Evan's
See, that's
time
what's-
manipulation skills.
See, and that's why I actually like Volcarona and like the pings and stuff. Galaxy.
Yep. Evan commenting that he enjoys the Volcarona with those abilities. We're seeing Nick already going ahead and get his bench pretty full up there with that Mew and a couple Inkays. Mew probably less so for its ability in this game, more so that he can throw the damage onto Larvestas and type nulls real quick, and that way they're always just walking targets. I mean, it'd almost be kind of funny in this deck to get like one copy of Champions Festival just to kind of reset.
Stealthy Hood.
Yeah, I mean, if I was going to play a tool though, instead of playing Stealthy Hood, I'd probably go with Island Challenge Amulet, and it would give you a better Reshizak matchup because they're going 1 prizes for, you know, 3 prizes, and that always feels great.
Heads up to our listeners. You're going to be seeing Evan's good luck charm in a lot of these future videos. I don't know why it's laid out on the table right now. It's usually in his lap.
Yeah, Evan needs his little fidget toy there to get him through the day. He'd be the kid that like is annoyed everybody else got fidget spinners banned because he actually needs the fidget spinner. But you know,
It's usually a stylus.
yeah, alternates
I ran
between
out
like
of
the
styluses.
yeah,
Wait until Christmas.
alternates between this
Pack of
wristband, stylus. If you watched him play on the Collinsville stream last year, you probably saw it up there too.
Can't side power anything.
Interesting. So rather than open up that psi power option that we were talking about for Nick, Evan just kind of likes to pass and says, you know what, you're not knocking out my Dedenne this turn, so have at it. He thick.
Maybe.
So here comes the third Inkay. And so this is kind of what we're talking about with that bench space for Malamar, because if Nick throws this Inkay down, he can have Shadow Box, but he can't have Giratina, or he can have Giratina and not have Shadow Box. And, you know, Evan can be a slow, methodical player where those little pings that, you know, like we saw with the Buddy Brave last time, where he didn't go with knocking out just to set up the damage there. It's all in the realm of possibility. So we see the Inkay. See Nick gain some psychic energy in the discard pile. See what Nick decides to do, because it could be no bueno no matter what. Nick just passes, Jirachi stays asleep. See that Viridian come down on Nick's or Evan's side this time. Going ahead and grabbing himself another energy card. think maybe what's in Nick's wheelhouse is that he needs to go with that Mew, Psi Power, the Dedenne, and then kind of tell Evan, alright, if you don't do anything now, I'm going to come in and Shadow Impact for a game. But, you know, Evan's kind of trying to do something that lets him keep his strategies live. I'm thinking he's trying to avoid putting anything down until he can get Ninetales online to be able to get that Mimikyu as soon as it hits the board before it causes too many problems for him.
5.
And that is time. So now we'll play our +3 turns, and well, the writing on the wall may be here for Nick. We've seen Evan's hand. We know he's got, you know, something to throw down to just say, no, Nick, you're not winning the game off this Dedenne. Time and round's been called. I'll just throw down these couple type nulls, and you're not taking 3 knockouts and all this before your 3 turns are up. So yeah, both of these are kind of those slow, methodical decks where, you know, Malamar has its Malamar thing. It's kind of new Silvally, Volcarona. Probably needs a little bit more refining, but, you know, I think it's a good starting point here. You know, and we'll see how it goes. It may not be anything. It may just be that it's getting lucky off of what it's doing. There's turn 0, here comes turn 1. We see 2 type nulls. See the Heat Factory go off.
What I should have done last time, I should have attacked stuff on chart
It's turn 2, right?
Yep, so this is turn 2 with Nick. Nick decided to kind of go in here with the Cephalon. Trying to
Be a tie.
But it's probably too little too late at this point. Again, Malamar kind of takes those slow games where, who knows, maybe Nick would have been better scooping, but at the same time, he kind of always felt like he had the game in his control, so there wasn't really a point to do it. It was really just a matter of Evan being able to think of more creative strategy. Firework Mom goes ahead and gets some work put in for Mimikyu if it were to come down here.
Let's show. And then I get to change
That red and blue that we've seen a couple times in other videos finally coming into play here. You need that Silvally ready to lock and load. Knowing Evan, he's probably just trying to style this last turn by white knighting Blacephalon. Just looks at Blacephalon and goes, "Yes, my lady." See some beautiful pings from these lovely Volcaronas.
Could you imagine if you take 6 prizes in one turn?
Right? There's one.
I think if I get stuff early,
Yeah.
why not? See, it's like, even if I didn't want to, if I wanted to do things,
Mm-hmm.
it's actually funny because I didn't even have a lot of this. Like, my hand was just full all enemies, and I couldn't even use them. And then I'll silver.
That's it. Good game.
So, even based on prizes, I'm still not
Evan pointed out if they had a gentleman's agreement down that he would have won based on prize situation there at the end, so.
So I know is that because you filled up your bench, I would have just slopped. Because of, you had no.
Then let's do everything
just
called
hanging
not
out.
killing things till we're taking all the prizes.
I won't maximize my details. Next time,
Why did you bench me? Or did you start me?
look at cycle. So you delete your things, and then Mimikyu will shut off the ability.
Or I bet you filled up your bench.